This property, this whole shoreline, is now under the authority of the Pelican Creek Homeowners Association. That's what the woman in the crisp white blazer said, standing right here, on the dock my grandfather hammered into this earth back in 1952. Her name was Victoria Sterling, president of the damn HOA. A title that sounds important until you realize it just means she's the most entitled person on the lake. She had lawyers with slick leather briefcases, she had maps that were clearly photocopied lies, and she had a quiet little boundary revision from 2021 that absolutely no one told me about, least of all the county. What she didn't have, not by a long shot, was the right. My name is Elias Thorne, 68 years old, a retired civil engineer who spent 40 years fighting to preserve historic infrastructure from bureaucratic nonsense. And suddenly, the fight I specialized in had walked right onto my own cedar deck. If you're watching tonight, drop a comment below and tell me where you are, because the lake remembers everything, and I'm about to prove it. My grandfather, Papa Joe, used to tell me that when I was maybe 10, sitting on this very dock with a fishing rod resting between my knees. He said water holds memory better than concrete, better than a bank safe, better than any document filed in a climate-controlled county office. It was here before the surveyors came, he'd say, and it'll be here long after the lawyers pack up their fancy briefcases and drive back to the city. That man came back from Korea needing silence, needing something solid. So he took timber he cut himself, shaped the logs, and fitted them together like a puzzle that was supposed to last forever. The deed is still upstairs, in my safe, signed, dated, unbroken chain of title going back 73 years. We bought it, we built it, we paid taxes on it, every single year without fail. Nobody gave us a thing, we earned it. The first sign that something was truly rotten came on a Tuesday morning. My coffee was going cold in my hand, and there it was, taped to a piling. A stark white, official-looking document, a notice of noncompliance. The font was big, blocky, the kind of bureaucracy designed to make you feel instantly small. Immediate remediation required. Contact Pelican Creek HOA for details. I tore it down slowly, feeling the sticky tape resist, and when it finally gave, it left a scar on the wood. That's how it starts, isn't it? A piece of paper, a small mark you can't quite scrub off. I walked up the gravel path, the one my grandfather laid down in the 60s, toward the cabin. It was weathered, sure, but solid, sitting low into the land instead of fighting it. The sign carved over the door still reads, Thorne, 1952. I pushed the door open, and the smell hit me. Old pine, the faint scent of Papa Joe's pipe tobacco soaked into the beams decades ago. If I closed my eyes, I could hear the rhythmic thunk of his hammer, 3 strikes to set a nail, never a wasted motion. The safe is a heavy old monster my grandfather installed himself in the corner of my office. 3 turns right, 2 left, 1 right. The satisfying click as it opened. Inside, protected by oilcloth, were the things that truly mattered. The original 1952 deed, the survey maps with the unchanging property lines, and a letter Papa Joe wrote me in 1990. If someone ever tries to take this land, Elias, he wrote, the handwriting still sharp despite the arthritis. Remember that our rights don't come from paperwork. They come from history, from sweat, from being here first. He foresaw the encroachment of development, leaving me those moral instructions. Don't let them rewrite what we built. I walked outside, down the slope, and there they were, 6 ugly, invasive orange survey stakes, marching in a line that cut across land that had never been disputed. I knelt, pulled one out. It came free easily, the earth still soft from the rain. No markings, no permit numbers, just an orange plastic cap and a length of steel planted like a hostile declaration. Then, I heard the engine, a black, glossy, oversized SUV, rolling slowly up the access road. It stopped just short of where my boundary should be, tinted windows so dark I couldn't see inside, but I could feel the assessment, the cold, calculating eyes watching. I just stood there with the orange stake in my hand, letting them see I'd found their markers, letting them know I wasn't the oblivious old man they hoped for. The SUV idled for 30 seconds, then disappeared. Later that afternoon, I found the second intrusion, a small, weatherproof camera mounted 15 feet up on a birch tree, angled directly at my front porch. No blinking light, no wires, just a black lens watching. I took 3 photos with my phone, date-stamped, geotagged. Old habits die hard. When you spend a lifetime documenting historic structures, you learn that details matter, evidence matters, because memory isn't enough when someone's trying to rewrite history. They arrived 3 days later. 4 of them. The black SUV rolled up at 10 sharp, tires crunching the gravel with the kind of confidence that screams, "We own this now." I was on the porch, sanding a splintered section of railing. 40 years as an engineer teaches you that maintenance is a kind of prayer. You tend things before they fail. I kept sanding, smooth, rhythmic strokes, a meditative reminder that some work just can't be rushed. Victoria Sterling led the charge. White blazer, cream heels completely unsuitable for gravel, hair pulled back so tight it looked painful. Her smile was the kind you practice until it stops reaching your eyes. Behind her, 2 men in dark suits carrying leather portfolios, and a third in a surveyor's vest holding a clipboard. They arrayed themselves at the base of the steps like a professional delegation. "Mr. Thorne," Victoria said, extending a manicured hand, a hand that had clearly never built a thing. "I'm Victoria Sterling, president of the Pelican Creek HOA. I trust you received our notice." Her voice was like smooth glass, pleasant, the kind of tone that makes threats sound like favors. I set down the sandpaper, looked at her hand, no calluses. I didn't take it. After a moment, she lowered it, her smile tightening just a fraction. "This is private property," I stated simply. "You are trespassing." She nodded, as if I'd recited a quaint script she'd already prepared for. "Of course, but we're here to make you a very generous offer." One of the lawyers stepped forward, opening his portfolio. $950,000, Mr. Thorne. Cash for the property. We believe that's more than fair given the condition of the structures. I didn't reach for the document, didn't even glance at it. I kept my eyes on Victoria. "I am not selling." The words were flat, simple, final. She tilted her head, the smile shifting to something she probably thought was sympathy. "I understand the sentimental value, Mr. Thorne, truly I do. But this area has changed significantly since your grandfather's time. Pelican Creek represents a new chapter, higher standards, a cohesive aesthetic." "A cohesive aesthetic," I repeated, leaning back against the railing. "That's an interesting way to say you want everything to look the same, or that you want to squeeze maximum profit out of every inch of shoreline." She ignored the sarcasm. "The fact is, as of our 2021 boundary revision, this property falls within HOA jurisdiction. You are subject to our architectural guidelines, our maintenance standards. The notice you received lists multiple violations. We are prepared to work with you. But if you are unwilling to cooperate, we have the legal authority to enforce compliance." There it was, the threat wrapped in politeness, the velvet glove revealing the iron fist. I straightened up, letting the silence stretch. "This cabin has been here for 73 years, I said, my voice quiet, steady. "Your association has existed for 5. Tell me again who doesn't belong." Her jaw tightened. "Mr. Thorne, I don't think you grasp the situation." "Oh, I grasp it perfectly," I said. "You want my land. You decided it's worth more to you than to me. So you're manufacturing reasons why I should give it up. Violations, standards, jurisdiction. You're wrapping theft in bureaucracy, hoping I'm too old or too tired to fight back." The silence that followed was colder. Victoria reached into her immaculate purse, pulled out a thick, cream-colored envelope, and set it squarely on the railing between us. "This contains formal documentation of your violations. You have 30 days to respond. I strongly suggest you consult legal counsel." I waited until their black SUVs were gone before I picked up the envelope. 8 pages, single-spaced, a catalog of supposed crimes. Roof shingles non-compliant with community color palette. Dock extends beyond allowable waterfront encroachment. Structure lacks proper setback from revised property line. Every line was designed to make me feel like a criminal for living in the house my grandfather built. I called my lawyer, a young guy named Leo Davies, whose grandfather had been my site foreman decades ago. "Leo," I said, "I need you to pull every land survey and HOA filing for Pelican Creek going back to its incorporation, especially anything related to boundary changes in 2021. "Wesley, what's going on?" he asked. I looked out at the lake, the surface glass smooth. "Someone's trying to take my land, Leo, and they're using paper to do it." That Tuesday, I received the next certified letter, Notice of mandatory compliance hearing. Show up in 5 days or face immediate enforcement, plus fines totaling $45,000. They weren't trying to fix anything. They were trying to bleed me dry until selling looked like relief. I spread the letter out next to the original deed, next to the survey maps. I pulled aerial photos from the county GIS database, laying the old survey next to the current digital one, and that's when I found the poison. The digital line was compressed, my land smaller, as if 2 decades of shoreline had simply vanished into an administrative revision. I called Leo and told him about the shifting lines, the missing land. But the real break came the next morning. A call from the county planning office, professional, clipped. They were calling about a boundary dispute notification supposedly sent to my address in 2021. Our records show a certified letter was delivered and signed for, the woman said. Can you confirm or deny receiving it? I can confirm I never received any such letter, I said. I check my mail daily. Someone signed for something, but it wasn't me. A pause, the clicking of keys. Mr. Thorne, the signature on file doesn't match your name. It's signed by someone named C. Ashford. The air went out of my lungs, not from shock, but from recognition. That's the HOA president, I stated. She has no authority to sign for my mail. No, sir, she does not, the clerk confirmed. I'm flagging this immediately. The boundary revision may need to be voided pending investigation. She'd signed for my mail. Intercepted the notification that would have given me the right to challenge the boundary change, and then filed it as proof of delivery. Elegant in its simplicity, completely illegal. Leo, I called my lawyer back. They didn't just file a bad map. They forged the delivery. That's federal mail fraud. But even with the evidence stacking up, they escalated again. A new certified letter arrived that afternoon, an outright eviction order. 14 days to vacate the premises. They were testing to see if I'd panic and leave rather than fight. I'd spent 4 decades restoring condemned buildings, bringing them back from what everyone else called too far gone. I wasn't going anywhere. That night, I went down to the basement, opened the old gun cabinet Papa Joe built into the wall. The shotgun sat on its pegs, 12-gauge, double-barrel, walnut stock worn smooth. I lifted it, feeling the weight of it, the balance. I cleaned it, oiled the barrels, checked the action. And then I did something I hadn't done in years. I loaded it. 2 shells. Birdshot. Not for shooting, not for a threat, but for presence. I carried it upstairs and set it in the corner of the living room, visible through the front window, a line drawn. I wanted anyone watching to know I wasn't defenseless. The real moment came at 11 p.m. 3 black SUVs, no headlights, engines idling low on the gravel road. 6 men got out. They wore uniforms, not county, not police, private security. Pelican Creek Patrol printed across their backs in reflective letters. They carried flashlights, clipboards, surveying gear, moving with an unauthorized purpose, acting as if the land were already theirs. I stepped out onto the porch. The shotgun was in my hands, not pointed, not raised, just held across my forearm, visible in the porch light. This is private property, I said, my voice steady, loud enough to carry through the night air. You are trespassing. Leave now. The men froze. Flashlights swung toward me. I saw the lead man's hand move to his radio, saw the sudden, stark hesitation. They'd been told this would be an easy intimidation, an old man who could be bullied by aggressive posturing. They hadn't been told about the gun, or the fact that trespassing on occupied property in the middle of the night is legally fraud, or the fact that I had every right to defend my home. Sir, we have authorization from. You have nothing. I cut him off. No warrant, no court order, just a letter from an organization with zero legal authority over this property. You have 30 seconds to get in your vehicles and leave before I call the sheriff's office and report an armed intrusion. I didn't move, didn't blink, just stood there with the gun, waiting. The silence broke. Move out, the lead man said quickly. They scrambled, folding the gear, piling back into the SUVs. Within 2 minutes, the red taillights were gone. I stayed on the porch for another hour, watching. 20 minutes later, a deputy arrived, took my statement, photographed the fresh tire tracks. They're going to claim you threatened them, she noted. I stood on my own property with an unloaded firearm visible. I replied. I didn't point it. I just existed. She nodded. Good. You're about to need that distinction. She was right. By morning, the 15-second video clip was everywhere. Me on the porch, the shotgun visible. No audio, no context, just the image, instantly turning me into the unstable villain. Victoria knew she couldn't win on facts, so she was winning on optics. The true climax of the case, however, came with a quiet, hesitant knock the next dawn. The woman on my porch looked about 50, worn down, with dark circles under her eyes. She wore faded jeans and a sweater. "Mr. Thorne," she whispered. "My name is Lillian Porter. I used to work for the HOA. I need to talk to you." I let her in, made coffee. She sat at my kitchen table, wrapping her hands around the mug like she was drawing warmth from it. "I was their secretary," she said, words rushing out. "Correspondence, meeting minutes, normal administrative stuff. But in 2021, Victoria asked me to update some boundary maps. Said it was routine." She looked up, eyes red-rimmed. "I should have known better. What did she have you do?" Lillian reached into her bag and pulled out a small USB drive, placing it on the table between us. She gave me the original survey maps, and then she gave me edited versions. She told me to replace the originals in the digital system, to update the filing dates so it looked like the new versions had always been there. Her voice was barely audible. I said no, told her it was falsifying records. She said if I didn't, she'd make sure I never worked in this county again, that she'd sue me, ruin me. "I have 3 kids, Mr. Thorne." I was afraid. "So you kept copies," I said quietly. She nodded, tears finally falling. "I kept everything. The original maps, the emails where she gave me the explicit instructions, the correspondence with the county office where we filed the fraudulent revisions. I told myself it was insurance, but I knew it was wrong, and I couldn't just let it disappear." She pushed the drive toward me. "It's all on here. 47 emails, original and altered maps, a list of 8 target properties. All small parcels, all owned by people who had been here longer than the HOA. Why now, Lillian?" "Because I saw what they did to you," she said, looking me straight in the eye. "The signs in your yard, the video they posted, the way they're trying to make you look dangerous when all you did was stand your ground. And I realized, if I kept quiet, I was just as guilty as she is. More guilty, maybe, because I knew the truth." Leo arrived within the hour. We plugged in the drive, and his face went pale. "Wesley, this isn't just evidence of fraud. This is a complete roadmap of a criminal conspiracy. Mail fraud, forgery, falsification of public records." And she documented all of it. 10 days later, we were in the county courthouse, a place that smelled of old wood and the accumulated weight of 1,000 decisions. I was wearing Papa Joe's old navy blue suit, still fitting me perfectly. Victoria sat at the plaintiff's table with 3 expensive lawyers, looking composed in a conservative gray blazer. The judge, older, silver-haired, completely unimpressed, opened the proceedings. Victoria's lead attorney stood up, slick and confident, projecting the video of me on the porch. "This is what happens, Your Honor," he said, "when one individual believes the rules don't apply to him." When it was our turn, Leo didn't bother with a long speech. He placed the original 1952 deed on the projector, followed by the original survey. Then, he placed the HOA's 2021 map beside it. "The question isn't whether Mr. Thorne violated HOA rules, Your Honor. The question is whether the HOA had any authority over his property in the first place. The answer is no." He introduced the forensic report showing the 87% probability of forgery on the 1998 document. Then he called Lillian Porter to the stand. Under oath, she repeated everything: Victoria's instructions to alter the maps, the threatening emails, the systematic fraud across the 8 properties. When Victoria's lawyer tried to discredit her, Lillian looked him dead in the eye. "I'm a mother of 3, she stated, her voice shaking but firm. "I'm here because I helped do something wrong, and I'm trying to make it right. You can question my motives, but you can't question the 47 emails that prove every word I've said." Next, we called the other victims: the elderly man who'd lost his cottage to $63,000 in fabricated fines, the widow who'd been harassed off the land her husband built. Each story built on the last, a clear, sickening pattern of systematic dispossession. The judge leaned back, reviewing the mountain of evidence: maps, emails, testimony. "Ms. Sterling," he stated, his voice flat, "today's evidence shows not simple regulatory overreach, but criminal fraud, document forgery, mail fraud, and conspiracy to defraud multiple property owners. This court rules entirely for the defendant, Mr. Thorne. The gavel came down, final and absolute. All HOA claims were dismissed. Fines voided. The judge specifically noted, Mr. Thorne acted in lawful self-defense that night. No charges, no penalties. He had every right to defend his land. Victoria Sterling rose stiffly, her expensive lawyers scrambling to leave, but 2 county officers were waiting. They arrested her right at the courtroom door, reading her rights as the cameras flashed. I watched, without triumph, just a quiet recognition that justice isn't revenge, it's restoration. I drove home as the sun was setting. The cabin waited, solid and unchanged. I sat on the dock, watching the lake turn to hammered silver, hearing Papa Joe's voice. The lake remembers, Elias. And now it would remember this, too. Not the fight, but the truth. Some things can't be taken or erased. They stand because they were built right and defended well. The water was glass. The cabin was home. And I was exactly where I belonged. This whole saga, the fraud, the shotgun, the moment of pure silence in the courtroom, it all started because one person, Victoria, thought her paperwork was stronger than my family's history. I want to know what you think. If you were me, and the HOA patrol showed up at your doorstep at 11 p.m., knowing they were operating on forged documents and illegal jurisdiction, what would you have done? Did I go too far by standing my ground so aggressively? Or was that the only language they understood? Drop your opinion in the comments below, and let's discuss where the line between community rule and criminal behavior truly lies. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories about fighting the good fight.